Countdown is on. Only 3 days until Super Sunday. We got a Super Thursday here on Birds 365. McMullen, McDonald, and our bud Marc Farzetta. You see him on Sundays here on the JAKIB Media YouTube channel, hosting the pregame show. You can catch him every day on the Farzy Show on YouTube. Good enough to jump in with us for a couple minutes here today. Farzy, are you ready for some Super Sunday football action?
I am waiting with great anticipation, as we all are. And this has been, for me, like the week between Christmas and New Year's, where I have no idea what day it is. I am just focused on one thing, and that is Sunday.
I'm with you. I never know what day it is. As far as
and you have to travel soon.
Yeah, I know. I better make sure what day it is. It is Thursday, right?
Today, yes. Good job, John.
Yes.
All right. So solid. And Mark had to think about it too. See,
I did.
Now, this week is tough though, because I think even Nick Sirianni kind of felt. We were talking about. He finally admitted when it comes to injuries, luck plays a part in that. Mark, he finally admitted that. You think he's getting worn down with all the Super Bowl just every day? The silliness, the constant, the same questions. I was the first one, Mark, on Tuesday. So Tuesday after the NFC Championship game, I asked him about the first meeting with Andy Reid when Andy Reid came into Kansas City and he was leaving because he was part of that 2-14 coaching staff. He knew it. I asked him that on Tuesday. He's gotten asked it every stinking day since. He's got to be driving him crazy.
He's probably thinking that damn John McMullen had to start this trend.
He
probably.
thinks that. Yeah.
No, but I think it was the guy from Germany that eventually broke him down. And I'm not talking about the snowballs question from a couple of weeks ago. I'm talking about the question that was asked, I believe it was yesterday's press conference, and it was around the same type of thing. And the guy from Mexico City that asked him something similarly as well about, Andy Reid fired you. Are you mad? It was that kind of temperament to the question, I guess. But no, I think he is getting worn down. I think it's the great distraction. And I always say this, but I really take away a lot from what Doug Peterson said before kickoff during the Super Bowl 52, where Bill Belichick went out, met him at half field during warmups or at midfield and said to him, how'd your week go? And Doug's response, I thought, was profound, although I don't think it was intentional. He just said, there's a game in here somewhere, right? Like, I'll get through the media coverage. I'll get through media night. I'll get through opening night. I'll get through all the stuff I got to do. But I just want to get back to my grease board. You know what I mean? I want to get back to football. I want to get back to what brought us here. And I think Nick Sirianni is finding it to be very similar to what Doug Peterson found it to be, which you got to get through the dog and pony show. You got to get through the circus. And when you're able to do that, like they were yesterday, actually get on the practice field, actually run around a little bit, you start to feel like you're back in your natural habitat. So to your point of whether or not Nick is finding himself through the other side of it now, he just very well may be.
I think there could be a question that throws him off from the Dusseldorf reporter today. You never know.
He got asked about his boxer shorts yesterday.
Yeah, that's the silliness that you have to put up with during Super Bowl weekend. Oh, by the way, for one last time, did Nick Sirianni actually think he was going to be retained being part of a 2-14 coaching staff? That's the one thing that nobody touches on. He was fired by Andy Reid. Well, maybe because the team sucked and they brought in Andy Reid to change things.
He knew it. I mean, not to mention Andy had David Culley at the time, who was his longtime receivers coach. And, oh, by the way, his assistant head coach. And obviously everybody knows David now because he became the head coach in Houston for a very short period. But Nick knew. Nick wasn't upset at all.
Right.
But it becomes a story.
Here's one for the reporter, Mr. McMullen. I don't know the answer. It's probably an unfair question for you. Did Andy retain any coaches from that staff? Or were they let go en masse? I would just suggest 2-14 should be, we'll keep none of these guys. We'll move to an entire new coaching staff and a new culture. So if Nick was one of every other coach who got fired from that staff, it's only a big deal because they have to be coaching against.
Yeah, there might have been a lower level guy, a quality control guy, but certainly no one of significance. Andy was entrenched. I mean, his offensive coordinator, I know off the top of my hat, was Doug Peterson. His quarterbacks coach would have been Matt Nagy. So he brought in his guys, as everybody does.
Right.
I remember he brought Brad Childress back that year. So, there's a bunch of.
But how dare he fire Nick Sirianni the way the questions have gone this week, which is ludicrous. All right, other ludicrous
apparently
questions.
He loves just to answer your question real quick. Emmett Thomas, the defensive backs coach, stayed on. So, I mean, why not Nick Sirianni? Why does Andy Reid hate Nick Sirianni? I think that's the question.
But had Emmett Thomas coached under Andy Reid previously? In another,
no,
he had been an Eagle coach before, but that was before Andy got here.
Yeah, he was here with Ray, I think, Ray Rhodes. So right before Andy. But Emmett, and Emmett was really entrenched by that point. Like, he was a really well-regarded head coach. Emmett Thomas, by the way, we're going down a wormhole. But that's JG's guy, man. He loves Emmett Thomas.
Really?
That's one of his biggest mentors. But yeah, so I guess if you want to go that route, you can say Andy Reid didn't like Nick Sirianni because he kept Emmett Thomas.
See that? What a jerk!
Well
what
done,
a jerk,
well done, Mark.
Andy Reid,
well done.
Jerk. Hey, his boxers must have been too tight that day. What was wrong with Andy Reid that day that he didn't keep him? All right, Fargy, let's move it over to the quarterback.
Yes.
Jalen Hurts continues to get questioned in some corners. Some people are giving him his props, and I'm happy for that. But others are still questioning him, that idiot Chris Sims. It all seems to flow right off him. That this is something we should know full well in Philadelphia from the time he got here, that this kid has an unbelievable presence to him, that he does not wilt under pressure. He does not get bothered by foolish questions. He doesn't let anything that anybody says affect him in any way, shape, or form. Should we not be surprised, more not surprised than anybody else on the planet? Because we've had 2+ years, at least. I don't think anybody knew too much about him when you're sitting behind Carson Wentz. But from the time he became the starting quarterback of the Eagles, this kid hasn't changed at all, has he?
No, and it's the most, of all the impressive things that Jalen Hurts does as a quarterback, the most impressive thing is his demeanor. And I know the phrase gets thrown out there, 24, but wise beyond his years. And Jordan Mailata just talked about it yesterday about how Jalen Hurts is a guy that you would assume is 40 years old with how mature he is in the way that he thinks. And my halftime co-host and I, Devin Caney, have been talking about this a lot since last year, really. And John, maybe we talked about it with you as well. In a day and age where we talk about mental health and mental toughness, I think we do need to acknowledge and praise the people that seem like they're on mental steroids. And Jalen Hurts is certainly one of those guys. You go back to the Deshaun Watson conversation, Russell Wilson conversation, and the blips on the radar that were the Aaron Rodgers conversation, and the idea of possibly drafting a quarterback with one of your 3 first-round picks going into this last draft. Jalen Hurts, throughout the entire process, literally saying, I'm above it all. I remember at training camp last year, I'm above it all. And not only has he actually acted that out and proven that with his actions, his play, and his improvement, you have continued to see it through this MVP caliber season that we just witnessed. So that's the most impressive thing. Without that mentality, without that mindset, without obviously his work ethic, you're not looking at the same quarterback. You're looking at a guy who is driven by all the outside forces, but then at the same time doesn't give them credit, almost looks at them and just says, well, you should know better because I'm going to keep working, and I'm going to keep working until I'm the best. And we've seen that play out so far this year.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting, but you're right, Mark. I call him an old soul all the time, even his musical taste. He's like,
Anita like Baker.
Yeah. But there are hurdles coming. He's a superstar now. Like, he's a pitch man. He's got all these marketing deals already, and it's only getting better and better if he wins the Super Bowl from that perspective. The money's coming. Joe Banner put the number $47 million out there when the extension comes. So that part of it is coming. I look at Aaron Rodgers weekly on the Pat McAfee show. The guy's nobody loves Aaron Rodgers. Jody will tell you this as a player more than me, but he's going off the rails, man. He's got some things going on when you're talking
piping
about
hot takes.
Health. Yeah. Can Jalen Hurts stay grounded through all of this? Is it even possible when you look at superstars and other sports to stay grounded in that type of circumstance?
I think it's difficult for the average bear. I don't think Jalen Hurts is the average bear. There is something about this guy and his mental toughness, his mental fortitude that keeps his eye on the prize. Now, that's what he has given off now at 24 years old. What he'll give off as a guy potentially making $45 to $50 million a year, potentially signing a ginormous contract, we'll see. But something about the way this guy thinks, the way this guy approaches life, whether it's the all-female managerial staff that he has, whether it's as close to his grandmother as he is, whatever it is, this guy, whether it's the tribute to his father that he did yesterday. I don't know if you guys saw that, but that was beautiful. This guy has a great head on his shoulders, and I don't think that this guy strays far from that path throughout his career, which is another reason why I wanted to stay here for a very long time.
I'll tell you why I have confidence that he can stay as grounded as he is, Johnny Mac. Look at the guy across the field. Mahomes is a couple of years ahead of him in this progress, and other than letting Andy Reid draw mustaches on his face for commercials, I think he stays pretty much in the football moment, so you got to give him credit. So it's certainly doable. Just check out Patrick Mahomes. All right, Farzy, I'm having mixed emotions about this game in this respect. I think the Eagles want to run the football. I think the Eagles need to run the football. I think it would be advantageous if the Eagles can run the football and keep Patrick Mahomes off the field. But what if the Eagles win the coin flip and they defer and Mahomes goes down the field and scores a touchdown, and then they're playing either even or catch up all day long? Will they be tempted to just try and go mano a mano with Patrick Mahomes in a passing game, which I think Hurts can win? But I don't think that would be the best way for the Eagles to go about winning in this game. Can they win a 38-35 game going up and down the field, Mahomes against Hurst?
I think they can. I'm with you. I think they can win that game. But I think if the Chiefs do win the toss, do take the ball first, or if the Eagles defer, whatever it might be, and I do think the Eagles would still defer, the Eagles should go into this game not overconfident by any means, but they have the better team. I think all around they have the better team, and I have no doubt in my mind about that. But if the Chiefs get the ball, score first, the Eagles have to still play within themselves. As the better team, you should still take the best version of yourself, especially against this Chiefs team, and throw it in their face. And I believe this team is best when they are using the pass, when they're building it off the run game. Everything starts with the RPO in this offense. The Chiefs have been very susceptible to that RPO, and nobody runs that quite like Jalen Hurts, Miles Sanders, and Kenny Gainwell behind this offensive line. The number one strategy I think for the Eagles is going to be what a lot of teams have tried to do against them, which is keep their high-scoring offense off the field. Keep Patrick Mahomes off the field. I think you're going to see a lot of plays run by this Eagles offense. I think you're going to see a lot of long, sustained drives. I think you're going to see a lot of Jalen Hurts quarterback sneaks for the first down on 3rd and short, 4th and short situations. Whatever keeps Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce off the football field is going to benefit the Philadelphia Eagles. So I don't think they get away from the run. I think they realize that is going to be their bread and butter when going against the Chiefs in this matchup.
It is a week for the old adage paralysis by over analysis, Mark. But I found a couple numbers this week that I did not know, and they're very interesting, and I think could help the Eagles win this football game. One of them is you kind of mentioned on the 4th downs, 3rd and 4th downs, more 4th downs. The Eagles are very aggressive, typically. The Chiefs are not. It's almost the old school versus new school trope, but it's true. If you look at the advanced numbers, when you have a 1% bump in win probability, so Alec Callaby's getting involved, the old days of our buddy Ryan Paganetti, that's their jobs. All right, and Doug Peterson, we got a 2% chance to win if we go for it here and we get it. And that's a bump. 21 of 27 times the Eagles go for it. Andy Reid, similar circumstances, 7 of 26. I'd rather be the team on the biggest stage that's trying to win the game, not trying not to lose it, if that makes sense. Do you think the Eagles have an advantage there?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you even go back to the Super Bowl against the Patriots there in 2017. How many times Doug Peterson went for it on fourth down? How many times they went for it on situations like that, especially in that fourth quarter, where I want to say it was a 3-yard completion to Nelson Aguilar for a first down or something late in that game. Nick, I think, is going to triple that against the Chiefs. They realize that they can get away with it. I think Nick set the tone in the NFC Championship game when they were deep in their own territory and went for it on the 4th and 3, I want to say it was. So they're going to continue to ride the horse that brung them. In this case, the horse is their own mentality, strategy, and philosophy. And I think that's the way Nick Sirianni is going to approach this game. I don't think a lot's going to change. And the thing that jumps out to me above it all, especially in those short situations, Jason Kelce, multiple times this season, while mic'd up, you know what's coming. Good luck to you. First down, Eagles. And especially with this defensive line, the Eagles obviously have the edge there, offensive line versus defensive line here in this scenario. So when I look at it like that, I see the Eagles sustaining drives depending on those 3rd and short, 4th and short situations for Jalen Hurts to do every bit of squatting 600 pounds and gaining first downs in those scenarios. And as we all know, and the game I always go back to for that analogy is the first year of Chip Kelly, not to send shivers down people's spines, but when they lost,
I mentioned Chip. It's a big Chip day. I mentioned it twice today.
Oh, did you really? Oh, I'm sorry, everyone. I didn't mean to double down on Chip Kelly references. But
both of you need to apologize. Yes,
Miss Cusi. But when it comes to that game against the New Orleans Saints in South Philly, I remember Drew Brees QB sneaking time and time again, back-breaking, bone-crushing first down conversions, 4th down conversions, multiple times throughout that game. Jalen Hurts does that at will with this offensive line. And that's going to be another huge advantage, I think, for the Eagles in that case.
Yeah, I'm going to defend Big Red here a little bit, and the Chiefs don't go for it department. We had Farzin Vasugian on from Arrowhead Attack the other day, and he noted they don't go for it on 4th down because they don't want to sneak Patrick Mahomes. He is the only guy I've ever heard of who got hurt on a quarterback sneak, blew out his MCL a couple of years ago, and Andy's been running scared of that ever since. And if you got the ball, Patrick Mahomes has got it in his hands. You're not putting him at risk. I give Doug more credit than I give Sirianni because Doug didn't have Jalen Hurts. He's a guarantee. He's a machine on the 4th and 1. So it's easy enough to pull the trigger. Oh, I got the bullet. I'm going to shoot it. He's that good. If you're looking at the 3 Eagle coaches, the guy who should get the most credit for is Peterson because he used to try it with Wentz and with Foles, who weren't the guarantee that Jalen Hurts is. All right, I need a guarantee for you. Are the Eagles going to take care of the football? Speaking of numbers, I threw this out with John the other day. Our buddy Boop Stats gave me this one. 112 teams have played in the Super Bowl, Marc Farzetta. How many of them have gone through the playoffs without a turnover? Whatever their playoff run is, had to get to the Super Bowl, then play in the Super Bowl, finish the Super Bowl. How many of the 112 have had 0 turnovers in their playoff run?
Through the playoffs of those teams, I'm going to say, Jody Mac, 10.
10.
No
good
I
guess.
that yesterday. 10.
Good
I'm going to
guess.
go 9.
Guess what?
9.
Both of you were wrong by 10. The number is 0. No team has ever gone through the playoffs and played in the Super Bowl and finished the Super Bowl with no turnovers. The Eagles, this playoff run, have had no turnovers. So if they don't turn it over in the Super Bowl, they'll be the first one in history to never have a turnover in the Super Bowl run. If the Eagles don't turn the football over, they're going to win the game. Marc Farzetta, are you ready to guarantee the Eagles won't have a turnover?
Mark, before you answer this question, I just want to add to what Jody said. And you and I are brilliant, brilliant people. We both had the same number. We're both woefully wrong, but we both had the same number.
Right.
I want to throw this in. Again, paralysis by overanalysis. So on top of what Jody said, the Eagles have not turned the football over in this entire season, 19 games, went in 12 personnel. Have never turned the football over 12 personnel. What that tells me, I'm going to see Jack Stoll on the field, not Quez Watkins.
All right, what was the dew point? What was the dew point when they were running those plays? Well, give me more details.
Yes, but turnovers, to your point, I wanted to add that to it because that's the way the Eagles lose this game, right?
Oh, yes. I mean, I think that's the way. I mean, I think it's obvious. I think any team loses when they don't win the turnover battle, especially on the stage that is the Super Bowl. But I think the Eagles have done, for the vast majority of this season, a phenomenal job of protecting that football. Trends are trends for a reason, and people go by them, letter of the law. And Jody, you bringing up that number. That's the first scary thing I've heard going into this Super Bowl is that it's almost like they're due. And I also find this interesting, and I know we alluded to the boxers question earlier with the gentleman from the British Broadcasting Company asking Nick Sirianni about changing his boxers. But Nick Sirianni, I love the idea, shot down any idea of superstition. And he said that routine is not superstition. I do the same things because that's our routine. I don't do them because I think they have some overall great supreme being effect on the game itself. You protect the football, good things happen. That's not a superstition. That's a routine. And I think the Eagles, for the most part this season, have made that part of their routine. The fact that nobody has done it scares me just a little bit there. But I think the Eagles will continue their trend in this game as well.
Oh, by the way, to whoever it was who streamed in, Jody, you jinxed us now. Let me remind you that the Eagles could turn the ball over on Sunday, but if Kansas City turns it over 3 times, the Eagles are going to win. I think you'll get past that pretty easily, even if they don't set the record, become the first team in history. As long as they're plus in the plus minus, I think they'll be okay against the Chiefs on Sunday.
And to Mark's point, we cannot jinx the Eagles, so settle down. None of us have control.
I'm with you.
What the Eagles do. But on the field, offensive, defensive line. We talk about this from the coaching perspective. And I believe, Mark, that the Eagles' philosophy dates all the way back to Andy Reid. So he has an incredible footprint on this game. We talked about it a little bit on fourth downs. All the experience, another number, 28-3, coming off a bye week. That tells me one thing. The Chiefs are going to be prepared. This is not going to be 38-7. This is not going to be 31-7. This is going to be a football game. Did the Chiefs have the advantage on the coaching staff, or is it about the new age? Is it time to turn the page on the old school? Are we at the new school? New quarterback, dual threat, can't win a Super Bowl. Well, those people are running scared, Mark, because we're 60 minutes away from that happening. Now they'll move the goalposts and say, well, he improved as a passer. But nonetheless, is this an old school versus new school type of turning the page?
Yeah, and I actually liken it to Doug Peterson versus Bill Belichick. And I've heard from KC people. I've done a couple of hits out there, a couple of radio hits out there. This is a very experienced staff. And what I say is, Nick Foles didn't have the experience of Tom Brady, and that worked out for the Eagles, didn't it? And you want to talk about a dual threat? Yeah, Nick Foles wasn't, running or rushing and gaining yards that way, but he was too busy catching touchdown passes. So that's a dual threat if I ever heard of one. But as far as the experience thing goes, old school versus new school, I'm a big believer in something Charlie Manuel said years ago. It's not old school, it's good school. And both these coaches come from a good school. One has a hell of a lot more experience. One's been to grad school several times, while the other's just getting his bachelor's degree, maybe. But when you look at a guy like Andy Reid, the experience is obviously there. You look at a guy like Steve Spagnuolo, the experience is obviously there. Eric Bieniemy, experience is there. We all know that. But I think what it comes down to is who's going to have the overall better team. You could talk about being well coached, and that's why I don't think this game is going to be a blowout. I've admitted that. I've acknowledged that. I don't know if you guys agree or not. Going into this game, you look at the paper, the Eagles are the better team. That should ultimately decide who's going to win this game. I think the experience and the coaching factor on the Chiefs side of the football, and the fact that they got an MVP there almost 2 times over now with Patrick Mahomes, and the experience also there being a Super Bowl MVP, you have a tip of the cap to the Chiefs in that regard, which is why I think it stays close. But ultimately, the Eagles win this game.
As far as he know that you were on the air or for all or part of Andy Reid's tenure here in Philadelphia, so you got a good grasp of most Eagle fans do what Big Red is all about and what he's done during his career, coaching wise, on any given Sunday. We talked about this last week with the Eagles with Lane Johnson against Nick Bosa. The Eagles' present coaching staff with their two phenomenal tackles go, yeah, take your guy. They don't chip with backs. They don't add a tight end specifically to a side because the matchup might be tough against a defender. They have so much confidence in their two tackles. They go, yeah, you take care of him. Mano a mano, one-on-one. And it makes it so much easier for the rest of the offense. Andy Reid has been similar in his coaching over the years. But Andy Reid's also pretty smart. He's got to look and go, you know, Hassan Reddick could wreck this game the same way he wrecked the game last week and took the 49er quarterback out. I think Andy will be smart enough to deal with it and react to it. Do you think they just put their only okay right tackle on an island and go, yeah, you got to keep him from getting to Patrick Mahomes? Or do you think they react? And if that's the case, can the Eagles take advantage of it other places along the line?
I mean, here's the other thing I'm hearing from Kansas City a lot is, Eagles were number one in sacks. Well, the Chiefs were number two. Yeah, number two by a mile. All right, 70 to 55 throughout the season. Yeah. So, literally you have the elite, and then you have, hey, good season, Chiefs. It was adorable. So the versatility of this Eagles defensive line might be one of the biggest gaps in terms of unit by unit comparison, which is something to be said when you're facing Patrick Mahomes as a quarterback. The quarterback position is pretty close in this game. But when you talk about defensive line, the versatility of this defensive line, whether you have Andrew Wiley going up against Hassan Reddick and not getting help, if you don't help him, Hassan Reddick's going to eat in this game. And you're going to see Patrick Mahomes trying to pull out those circus throws, which, yes, he can do. But you're also going to see Patrick Mahomes get hit a lot in this game. And if you got a high ankle sprain, you're going to need every ounce of whatever percentage of health you have in this game to escape Hassan Reddick. Now, if you do decide to help him out, which I do think Andy Reid does, guess what? Now you have another matchup on the other side. Josh Sweat, an 11-sack guy, going up in this game against Orlando Brown, who's a hell of a left tackle. Don't get me wrong. But then you also have guys in the middle that can eat in this game, whether it's Fletcher Cox or Javon Hargrave. Oh, another double-digit sack guy. Brandon Graham coming in the rotation. I mean, regardless of what you do, to help out, to help stop the effort of Hassan Reddick, you got other guys that can get after the quarterback as well. And you're doing all this mind-blowingly without being aggressive, without sending blitzes. And even if you do send a blitz, Patrick Mahomes was posted a 140 passer rating against the blitz this year. So he does okay in that regard. The point of this is going to be that, yes, they are going to stop Hassan Reddick. They're going to try to stop Hassan Reddick. They're going to try to double team him. They're going to try and set the edge. But it's going to be difficult when you have other guys that can get in that backfield and get after Patrick Mahomes or also get off the running game, which I'm sure the Chiefs are also going to try to establish in this game.
All right. At Marc Farzetta on Twitter. Follow Mark there. I'm not going to ask you for a prediction because you got too many shows to do here on JAKIB Media. You got the Farzy show. You got to do the pregame show. You got the road to Glendale with Mike Missinelli. So I'm not going to go that route with you. But here's something Jody and I talk, and I'll admit we talk way too much about this stuff. But I think the coin toss is going to be important in this game because both coaches are going to defer. So whoever loses the coin toss, I think is going to have a tremendous advantage to be able to put their stamp on this game very, very early. Am I overstating that?
No.
Should you be rooting for the Eagles to lose the coin toss?
It's funny. I swear, this morning I woke up and I was thinking about the coin toss. I'd gone through some matchups and all that stuff, but I was thinking about the coin toss. And right in that moment, maybe about 5 minutes of thinking about it and the deferring and the momentum and the halftime whole thing. And I went, I think this is the most I've ever thought of a coin toss. I think it's the most I've ever thought of one. So no, I don't think you're overthinking it at all. It matters greatly in this matchup because I think long sustained drives, keeping the offense off the field is going to matter greatly when it comes to this matchup. Patrick Mahomes, that explosive offense, that is going to be a factor. Patrick Mahomes trying to maybe change their game a little bit and not having long sustained drives. Maybe trying to do that more than just the explosive play because both teams are going to try to do a similar thing, which is keep both these quarterbacks off the field. So when it comes to the coin toss and deferring, I've never looked at a coin toss the way I have for this Super Bowl because of both these quarterbacks.
Well, and because people actually bet on the coin toss this week. Most weeks I get McMullen. I said, text me if Sirianni defers. And I get a text about 102 every week. It says, yeah, he did. And nobody bets on it. And we have a weird interest in it. Oh, there'll be millions of dollars bet on the coin toss this week. So it is more significant than it is at any other time. All right, now I'm going to ask you for a score, Farzy, because as John said, you got 92 shows to do between now and the Super Bowl. What's the key aspect of the game? Is there one thing that when the game is over and done with and we're either celebrating a win or breaking down a loss, what is going to be the key aspect of the outcome of the game?
Let's take away the general thing. Let's just ball up the general things like turnovers and just throw that out the window for a second because we all know that matters. I think that if you're saying like, if the Eagles do this, they're going to win the game. If this defensive line plays as well as they have played all season long, the Eagles win this game, and the Eagles win it comfortably. If the defensive line struggles to get home and struggle to force mistakes, not just by Patrick Mahomes, but force turnovers when it comes to fumbles, interceptions, whatever, bad throws, whatever they might be. If this defensive line eats, this team wins comfortably. Now,
right, hold on. I gotta get you to define here. Eats his sacks, eats his pressures, eats his hits. How do we define it? Because Johnny and I diverge in the woods on this one. He gives more pressure for pressures than I do. I say eats is the quarterback is on the ground with the ball still in his hand.
Yeah. Yes, that will happen in this game. It's not going to happen to the tune of like a 9-sack game against Carson Wentz or anything like that, but they are going to keep him under pressure. Patrick Mahomes, if he is not comfortable throughout this game, if he has to continuously rely on underarm throws, sidearm throws, no-look throws, spin moves, the Eagles are going to win this game. That, to me, will be eating when you're facing a quarterback like Patrick Mahomes.
That sounds like pressure to me. Move him off his spot. Speed him up. That's what it's about.
Speed up. Patrick Mahomes is going to make sidearm throws and underarm throws. Yeah. It's going to happen. It's going to happen successfully for the
Make
Chiefs.
him throw before he wants to. Make him uncomfortable. That's what.
Here's what I'll give you. Eagles win this game. I don't think it's a comfortable game throughout, but I think the Eagles win this game. I think the Eagles cover the 1.5. But if I'm saying they win it, they're going to win by more than 2 points. But yeah, I think the Eagles win this game, and I think we'll be partying on Broad Street together.
We're going to go way out on a limb and say Patrick Mahomes does not complete a pass on any play he's sacked in this game. That's why sacks are important. Yeah,
I agree with you.
I'm guaranteeing a 0 completion percentage anytime he's sacked in the game. And
I'm gonna guarantee under 9 sacks as well.
Farzy, great stuff. Appreciate you hopping on board, bud. Thanks much. We will talk to you plenty during the off season. Enjoy the game on Sunday.
Thanks,
Good times, fellas. Thank you. See you guys.
Marc Farzetta from our post-game show here on the JAKIB Media YouTube channel. It's going to be pre-game show on the JAKIB Media YouTube channel on the Farzy show. All right, McMullen and McDonald coming back. All right, I'm going to have at Chris Sims when we come back because he has annoyed me. He has annoyed me again, no end. And I want to make a specific comparison, which I think Chris Sims and any of the other Jalen Hurts questioners, some of them are actually haters, but there's a bunch out there that I won't go that far, that hard on, but they're questioning and they're not giving him his props. That I need to make a comparison and ask a question of those who are questioning Jalen Hurts. I'll give that to you.